Just got back home from filming a disruption of Senator Josh Hawley's speech at the Heritage Foundation, basically calling for the majority of the grotesque U.S. military budget to be spent on maintaining U.S. imperialist control in Asia to protect the interests of the American capitalist class against those of the Chinese capitalist class. This would be done by no longer sending billions of dollars to Ukraine and pulling out of our bases in Europe to instead spend all of that money and manpower arming Taiwan with B-52s and more provocating weaponry like nuclear weapons to impede Chinese invasion, aka invade China ourselves, and expanding and heavily fortifying our military presence in Asia. This includes building even more bases in the Philippines, aside from the already proposed 4, and strengthening our bases in Guam, Japan, and South Korea. He fearmongered about how Chinese naval ships will be patrolling Hawaii and the Californian coast if we don't put an end to the Chinese government. I have a couple of thoughts. Firstly, an observation about how the conservative wing of the capitalist class in the United States is increasingly using populist arguments and outwardly condemning the system and the liberal war empire when it comes to Ukraine in order to appeal to the already heavily frustrated American proletariat that lacks class consciousness. But their solution is never, let's end the American empire and serve the people here, of course. It's the Democrats are pointing at the wrong country. It's actually this other one we need to defeat so that our capitalist overlords can have control over China's land. Again, I mean to spread democracy. Okay. So, for example, in this speech, this bureaucrat capitalist scumbag pretty much posits himself as a pseudo-anti-imperialist against the liberal and fake Republican single-party government, throwing the American people's money into an endless war. And what we must really do with that money is start World War III in the Pacific. Make no mistake, it is the Filipino proletariat, the proletariat of occupied Guam, South Korea, the proletariat of the DPRK, Japan, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, China, India, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia, and more, who are going to be the ones who will pay in blood with this bubbling inter-imperialist war. Whether it be all-out war or Cold War Part 2, if the Heritage Foundation and the bourgeois leeches that run it have their way, the new age colonization of Asia by the American empire in their quest to destroy China and expand their control over new lands, resources, and people will end in the deaths of millions. All for profit for the ruling class, as he so vividly and outwardly says in his speech. Even domestically, warmongering against China and the United States has led to more hate crimes against Asian Americans. The Heritage Foundation has Asian American blood on their hands, and they're willing to bathe in more Asian American blood if it means they can squeeze a single dime more out for themselves. Asian Americans, the American capitalist class that our community so aspires to join, is not your friend. U.S. military presence in our countries is not our friend. They are our enemy.